One local school board race is drawing in tens of thousands of dollars in campaign donations. A look at what's behind what's turning into a national trend. The path to leadership for the new state rep in Ohio's 26th House District. And if your child comes into contact with someone who has COVID-19, do they have to quarantine? The new guidance from the state and one district following it. Face the State starts now. Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us for Face the State today. I'm Tracy Townsend. Election Day is just 2 days away, and the race to become the next member of the Dublin School Board will likely be the most expensive that city has seen in a long time. School board candidates usually receive donations below $1,000, but as Kevin Landers explains, 2 candidates have received 10 times that, and it raised concerns among their challengers about who's controlling their campaigns.
In Dublin, Halloween decorations aren't the only thing that's a bit scary. So is the money flowing into the school board campaigns of 2 candidates. Each received thousands of dollars from a single donor.
That seemed a lot for a school board race.
In this city, the school board members have no term limits, and there's no cap on how much anyone can donate to a campaign. Catherine Terser is the executive director of Common Cause of Ohio, which tracks government accountability.
If you don't have any campaign contribution limits, well, then things can be really unequal between and among candidates.
2 candidates for Dublin School Board, Diana Rigby and Sherry Stryker, received $10,000 according to their financial disclosure statements. The donor is Darby Everhart of Dublin. She declined to talk about the donation, so did both candidates. The group Positively Blue, which supports women candidates for office, is calling into question what influence big money brings to a local school board race.
If you're giving that sum of money, we all know with money, strings are attached. There's going to be an expectation that you have that person's ear.
Both Rigby and Stryker have raised more money than all other candidates by a long shot. Their challengers are also raising concerns about big money in the campaign. Quote, local school boards in Ohio have a $3,000 per year compensation cap. That makes those $10,000 contributions look ludicrous, says Lynn May, a Dublin school board member. Lindsay Gillis told us the average donation to her campaign was $77. Dr. Ted Sun says he didn't ask for contributions because he's worried about the sense of indebtedness to donors.
We need to have a cap on, contributions that are coming from individuals. I really feel that that's important so that everyone's at a level playing field.
Large amounts of money pouring into school board races is not unique to Dublin. It's happening across the country as people realize the power that school board members have on issues like mask wearing, sex education, and policies on diversity and inclusion.
This is different, and certainly big money in school board races is different.
We will see in November if big money will be the difference between who won and who lost in the race for Dublin School Board. Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Ohio State political science professor emeritus Herb Asher says things have gotten out of hand with too many groups infiltrating school board races looking to sow division. He told me these are unparalleled times.
In the past, we have had controversial school board meetings. Oftentimes it focused on tax issues. People didn't want the school board to put tax issues on the ballot. And sometimes it focused on personnel or curriculum, but it was never this nature where it was so vitriolic. And what's interesting is one topic obviously is mandates, mask mandates and vaccine mandates. And I think many of the people who are fighting these they're fighting a different battle. I mean, I think there are some sincere objectors, but if we agree, and I think most people do, that we want our kids back in school, then we also want them back in school with the appropriate protections. And that does involve vaccines, and it does involve, not just for students, but for the staff and faculty and all of that, and masks and all of that. And so some of the people who oppose that may be sincere, but I think that's the smaller number. And there are others who are just taking that issue and weaponizing it, if you will, and going and making it part of a broader conservative agenda.
And Professor Asher says voters need to ask themselves if a particular candidate aligns with what's best for children in the district versus what's political. All right, what do you need to know before going to the polls? We talk with Franklin County Board of Elections spokesperson Aaron Sellers to make sure you're prepared. He stresses that even though it's not a presidential election year, it's important to make your voice heard.
Back in four years ago, which would have been the general election of 2017, we had a turnout of about 23%. So I guess that is kind of what we may expect. Obviously election years after presidential cycles obviously tend to be less turnout. But our hope is that we'll have a lot of people come here to vote in the remaining days for in-person voting. And we certainly hope for a big turnout on Tuesday. But really, I would encourage viewers that a lot of these off-year elections, have a lot of dollars and cents issues, and sometimes can be more impactful than presidential or in some instances gubernatorial races, because it's local.
Polls are open from 6:30 in the morning on Tuesday until 7:30 that night. If there's a line when you get there at 7:30, you can still vote as long as you are in the line by 7:30. Friends, don't forget your state-issued ID when you go to vote. If you don't have one of those, you can also bring a utility bill or even a bank statement. To learn more about other issues on the ballot in Franklin County or your neighborhood, your county where you live, text the word VOTE to 614-460-3345. Hey, there is a new name and face representing the state's 26th House District. It's the south and east side of Columbus, as well as Reynoldsburg, parts of Whitehall, Bexley, and Groveport. That's a diverse swath of central Ohio, which State Representative Latina Humphrey is now working to learn more about as she was appointed and sworn into office earlier this month. I talked with Representative Humphrey, who's a Columbus native, a graduate of East High School, and she says she's working now to learn her constituents' priorities and to make a point about her own priorities.
I have a background in criminal justice. I was bailiff to the Honorable Judge Carl Avaney, and so I really am passionate about criminal justice reform. Obviously, I want to focus on alternatives to incarceration. I also want to focus on reentry for folks who are returning. I am a daughter of a returning citizen, and so it's really important to me. Also, I want to focus on housing. I was community relations for our Franklin County Auditor's Office of Mr. Michael Stinziano, where he kind of made me the face of all things affordable housing, and I fell in love with it. So I want to, make sure that we keep our seniors in their homes, if that's what they want to do. And I want to make sure that folks who live in housing have safe and affordable and quality housing. Like I said, when I was doing that community needs survey during the appointment process, access to affordable health care was important. So that wasn't something I was thinking would be of importance. It's important, but I wasn't thinking that, that would be something that kept coming up. And so that is a part of my priorities, as well as focusing on behavioral and recovery support. So I'm, walking and chewing gum at the same time, but I wanted to make sure people knew my priorities, but then also know that I have an open door policy and willing to talk to anyone about any concerns that they may have within the district.
Representative Humphrey says her district benefits from employers including UPS, the Ronald McDonald House, and a number of Black-owned businesses. She says she hopes to focus on attracting more businesses and working with police to address crime in that area. Ohio is making moves to protect its underserved families. Governor Mike DeWine signed an executive order Friday. It's for a new savings program. It's called the After School Child Enrichment Educational Savings Account, or ACE. The program will provide up to $500 per year for children ages 6 to 18. To qualify, families must have an income of less than 300% of the federal poverty level. The money can go toward various educational activities. That includes tutoring, day camps, and even music lessons. Ohio Board of Education President Laura Kohler has stepped down. She sent a resignation letter Friday. The Ohio Senate indicated it would approve her reappointment to the board. 2 weeks ago, Kohler voted against repealing an anti-racist resolution. That resolution would condemn any teachings that seek to divide. It passed 10-7. Kohler voted against it. In her letter to Governor Mike DeWine Friday, she wrote in part, "I believe I can best support you and your work at this time by submitting my resignation." Kohler went on to thank the governor for allowing her to serve the position for 5 years. This week, the state health department released new quarantine guidance when it comes to students and COVID-19, and that guidance is called Mask to Stay and Test to Play. Here's how it works. If your child has direct exposure to someone with COVID in a school activity, they can stay in school symptom-free and wearing a mask for 14 days. But between 5 to 7 days, they can test. If they have a negative test and are symptom-free, they can remove the mask unless it's already required. As for extracurricular activities, asymptomatic participants can take part as long as they wear a mask when it's reasonable. They have to take a test as soon as they find out they've been exposed, and again in that 5 to 7 day window. So far, Columbus City Schools and the Olentangy Local School District will follow these new recommendations. There's been a lot of speculation about the cause of the unemployment crisis. Coming up, the conversation aimed at unraveling a complex situation and the bump in support for Ohioans on Social Security. Welcome back. We are finding out just how much money was reportedly mishandled by the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services throughout the pandemic. That amount, $3.8 billion. This is specifically linked to unemployment benefit issues. It was $475 million in fraudulent payments and $3.3 billion in overpayments. A state auditor says a lack of controls is to blame for the mishandling of money, and that ODJFS waited to acknowledge the issues until hundreds of millions of dollars in money had been misspent. The audit covered March of 2020 to February of this year. But the ODJFS security director says the department is in a much better place now than 8 months ago.
We continue to implement new strategies to improve the timeliness of claims processing and safeguarding federal and state taxpayer money.
10 Investigates did several reports on the unemployment issues throughout the pandemic. You can look for those at 10tv.com/10investigates. Here's a look now at where unemployment stands in our state. 500 fewer people filed initial unemployment claims last week than the week before. And the latest weekly update of 7,000 is nearly 3,000 below the 8-week moving average. 10 TV's Clay Gordon spoke with Lieutenant Governor John Husted this week about the economy in Ohio and where we stand when it comes to creating jobs.
In Ohio, we're creating jobs faster than we can find people to fill them. And right now we have on OhioMeetsJobs.com more than 269,000 jobs available. 150,000 of them pay more than $50,000 a year. These are both records. We've never seen anything like it. I've been working in economic development my entire adult life. I've never seen anything like it. There are lots of jobs out there, lots of high-paying jobs out there. It's an employee market, and employees are really dictating the terms of going to work these days.
I talked to one pizza place yesterday that is doing things. They've been open since 1961. They're doing things now they've never done before. Usually they have people walk in and apply. What about for the employers out there? What could the state do to help maybe someone that hasn't had an issue hiring but now does? What is the state helping those business owners do?
Well, the way we can help is to try to train more people. That's the one role that state government and local government can play, partnering with our schools. And the good news is that you're seeing businesses work with their educational institutions more closely than ever. Local business advisory councils at the high schools, more students enrolling in career centers, more internships, pre-apprenticeships, earn and learn opportunities. So look, when times get desperate, people turn to new ways of doing things. as the saying goes, you can't keep doing things the way you've always done them and expect different results. So you're seeing businesses, educational institutions begin these closer partnerships, more in recruiting programs into job training, things like that. What the state's doing is we're funding a lot of those activities. We're sponsoring programs. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you use the IMAP program in Ohio, for example, you can earn an industry recognized credential, and we will pay up to $3,000 for the cost of you earning that credential. Many of these credentials can be earned in weeks and are less than $3,000 that lead to jobs that pay more than $50,000 a year. If you want job training, there are free pathways for you to get it and to get prepared for these jobs that will give you a career with industry recognized credentials in the kinds of fields that we know are going to be there for the long haul, that you can support a family on and lead a good quality of life.
What are your thoughts for the future, and what are your thoughts for the moment in that?
Well, the biggest strain on the economy is the lack of a workforce right now. There's no doubt about that. And these are in some ways problems of prosperity. When you have a lot of jobs and not enough people to fill them, that's creating a strain on supply chain and in a lot of our lives, and the things that we want to buy, the prices are going up. The way for recovery going forward is to get the pandemic in the rearview mirror, get people back to work, keep them at work, and begin to improve our productivity through job training, things like that. This recovery is in progress, but we have to make sure we're not making government policies that chase people out of work. That's why I'm not for the vaccine mandate at the federal level, because it's going to force people out of the workforce unnecessarily so. And we hopefully can avoid that, keep people on the job, because when you have people leave work, you're just creating a greater strain on that supply chain. You're creating inflation. You're slowing the economic recovery. We have to keep the recovery going in a way that bring people back into the workforce. And that is, I mean, there's no other way around it. Until you can get people off the sidelines and into the game, we're not going to see the robust level of recovery that we all hope for.
Jobs are unfilled, yet workers are unemployed. How can both of these things be true? It's a topic our partners at the Columbus Dispatch explored this past week with a panel of experts. They tackled issues in the community with a series called Columbus Conversations. Many analysts say the job solution is complicated and multi-layered. The first question, where have the workers gone?
Well, they were not sitting on the sidelines waiting for their benefits to run out. If so, then we would have seen a really big jump in the labor force once the benefits ended. And we did see an increase in September in Ohio's labor force, but no more than what we saw in June, July, and August. And the same's true elsewhere. Missouri ended their supplemental benefit back in June. Workforce officials saw virtually no increase in applicants the first few weeks after that. So, as usual, it's about more than money.
So we actually had a couple people in comments already link it to the pandemic and the requirements for vaccines. Does anybody think that has anything to do with this?
I do.
It's a part of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I would say it's part of it, but I want to go back, Bill. I think money does have something to do with this. And I'm talking about those individuals who have historically been low-wage earners, no longer feel the need to go to a low-wage job when they have benefits or there's housing stabilization dollars that are out there, or they just, they'll figure out how to survive, with their own side hustle at this point.
You can hear much more from that panel by heading over to thedispatch.com. This week, Congressman Tim Ryan helped introduce the Social Security 2100 Act. The goal is to increase benefits across the board for current and new beneficiaries, improve cost of living adjustment, and eliminate tax on their benefits for middle-income recipients. Ryan talked about the values behind the changes.
It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter whether you're white, black, or brown. You will be taken care of. And this bill that John crafted is grounded in those values of compassion and caring about each other and the common good and using some common sense to get us there.
Next year, Social Security benefits will see the biggest increase in nearly 40 years. But how is this all possible? An expert explained the answer to 10 TV's Richard Solomon.
Well, who doesn't like more money? For those who get Social Security checks, the increase will jump to 5.9%.
So you're going to see 64 million Social Security beneficiaries and 8 million SSI beneficiaries who are going to have income increases due to this COLA increase.
The biggest question John Lamont has been getting is, how is this possible? He's an outreach specialist with Central Ohio Agency on Aging. The increase is tied to recent job shortages, consumer prices increasing, and surprisingly, something you might not have considered.
I can't think of very many things that people have said, oh, this has been good for me because of the pandemic.
But he says the money should be used for a reason.
It's intended to help people pay the increased cost.
Lamont says this inflation is here to stay as of now, but the amount of money that you could be getting depends on your Medicare Part B premiums, payments that are usually taken from checks every month.
Medicare premiums that a lot of these folks pay, those will also be going up most likely.
More money is coming for millions. Lamont says it's only a matter of time.
Know that you're going to get an increase, but you're going to have to wait a little bit of time to know exactly how much it is going to be.
Lamont says around late November, early December, people will get a notice telling them how much they should expect to get. Back to you.
The cost of living adjustment rate right now is 1.3%. Fireworks could soon become a bigger part of holiday celebrations in Ohio after trying to get this through in multiple sessions to reach an agreement on loosening those restrictions. Lawmakers finally struck a deal when this new bill that's headed to the governor's desk would allow you to set off a festive display. Expect to see more fireworks light up the sky in Ohio this week. The Ohio House and Senate passed a bill to allow people to set off consumer-grade fireworks during holidays and certain days of the year. That list of holidays includes New Year's Day, Chinese New Year's Day, Cinco de Mayo, Memorial Day weekend, Juneteenth, 4th of July, and Diwali. This has been an issue state lawmakers have really been going back and forth on for years.
4 General Assemblies ago, the Ohio Senate passed a fireworks bill. The Ohio House did not pass it. 3 General Assemblies ago, Representative Marty Sweeney and I got the House to pass the fireworks bill, and the Senate didn't pass it. Last General Assembly, Representative Baldridge and O'Brien got the House to pass the fireworks bill, and the Senate didn't pass it in a form that we thought would be acceptable. This General Assembly, we passed it earlier in the year. The Senate passed it. The governor vetoed it. We're getting closer. Let's be the House that could. We are on the verge of getting a bill that the governor has promised us he will sign. The Senate sent us a strong, clear message, 26-5. Let's show them we are their equal and get this bill passed so we won't have to talk about fireworks anymore.
Well, if the governor signs it, local governments would have the option to ban consumer-grade fireworks altogether. Governor DeWine met privately with the British ambassador to the United States. The United Kingdom is Ohio's largest European investor. Nearly 600 British-owned companies have a presence here in Ohio.
We have a direct trading relationship with Ohio, but we also wish to enhance the trading relationship with the United States as a whole. We understand the President's point that he can't resume international trade negotiations yet, wants to get his domestic packages through, but we very much hope for those negotiations to be resumed. We think there are lots of areas when they are of interest to people in Ohio.
And friends, we can't ignore the fact that it's Halloween today. We leave you this morning with a look at some super creative and super cute costumes from our 10 TV viewers. We thank you for that, and we thank you for joining us here today.